First of all, sorry for the fake photo. Do you know who was Muhammad ibn Abdullah? If not, so I will tell you, please don't skip the story. Muhammad, the final prophet of Islam, is one of the most significant and influential in history. He is revered by over 1 billion Muslims worldwide. His life story spans from his birth in 570 CE in Mecca, his prophethood, struggles, migration, and establishment of Islam, until his death in 632 CE in Medina. Muhammad was born in 570 CE in Mecca, a city in present-day Saudi Arabia. His full name was Muhammad ibn Abdullah. He belonged to the Quraysh tribe, a respected and powerful tribe in Mecca. His father, Abdullah, died before his birth, and his mother, Amina, died when he was 6 years old, leaving him orphaned. He was then cared for by his grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, and later, after his grandfather's death, by his uncle, Abu Talib. Mecca at that time was a center of trade and pilgrimage, where the Kaaba, a sacred sanctuary, attracted people from different tribes. However, it was also a place of rampant idolatry, with various gods worshipped by the local people. Despite being orphaned, Muhammad grew up to be known for his honesty and integrity. He earned the nickname, Al-Amin, the trustworthy, among the people of Mecca. He worked as a shepherd in his early youth and later as a merchant, accompanying trade caravans under the protection of his uncle. At the age of 25, Muhammad entered the employment of Khadija, a wealthy widow and successful businesswoman. He managed her trade caravans with such diligence and honesty that she became impressed with his character. Eventually, Khadija proposed marriage, and despite being 15 years older than Muhammad, he accepted. The marriage was a loving and supportive partnership. They had 6 children together, 2 sons, who died in infancy, and 4 daughters, including Fatima, who would later play an important role in Islamic history. Around the age of 40, Muhammad would often retreat to the cave of Hira, in the mountains surrounding Mecca, to meditate and reflect. During one of these retreats, in 610 CE, the angel Jibril appeared to him and conveyed the first revelation from God, commanding him to read, or recite. This moment marked the beginning of Muhammad's prophethood. The first verses revealed were: initially, Muhammad was deeply shaken by the experience, but Khadija comforted him and reassured him of his role. She took him to her cousin, Waraka ibn Nawfal, a learned Christian, who confirmed that Muhammad had received a divine message, just as earlier prophets had. For the first few years, Muhammad's message was preached in private, with only close friends and family accepting Islam. Among the first to accept Islam were his wife Khadija, his cousin Ali ibn Abi Talib, his close friend Abu Bakr, and his adopted son Zayd ibn Haritha. After 3 years, Muhammad was commanded to preach openly. His message was simple: monotheism, the belief in one God, Allah, and the rejection of idolatry, which was a radical departure from the beliefs of most Meccans, who worshipped multiple gods. As Muhammad's message spread, it attracted both followers and fierce opposition, especially from the Quraysh, the powerful ruling tribe of Mecca. The Quraysh saw Muhammad's monotheistic teachings as a direct threat to their way of life, their religious traditions, and the economic benefits of pilgrimage to the Kaaba, which housed many idols. The Quraysh subjected Muhammad and his followers to mockery, social boycotts, and, eventually, violent persecution. The early Muslims were tortured, ostracized, and many were forced into hiding. Some of the poorer Muslims, like Bilal and Ammar ibn Yasir, were subjected to brutal physical punishments for their belief. As persecution intensified, Muhammad allowed some of his followers to seek refuge in the Christian kingdom of Abyssinia, modern-day Ethiopia, where they were received by the just king, Negus Najashi, who protected them. This was the first migration of Muslims. In 619 CE, Muhammad experienced the year of sorrow when both his beloved wife Khadijah and his uncle Abu Talib died. Their deaths left him vulnerable, as Khadijah had been his greatest source of emotional support, and Abu Talib had protected him from the Quraysh. Without Abu Talib's protection, Muhammad faced increased hostility and danger in Mecca. During this time of grief, Muhammad experienced the miraculous Isra and Miraj. One night, the angel Gabriel took him from Mecca to Jerusalem, the Isra, and from there, he ascended through the seven heavens to meet previous prophets and receive instructions from Allah, the Miraj. During this journey, it is believed that Allah ordained the 5 daily prayers for Muslims. The situation in Mecca became increasingly dangerous, and Muhammad sought a new place for his followers. In 622 CE, after lengthy negotiations, Muhammad and his followers migrated to the city of Yathrib, later renamed Medina, about 320 kilometers north of Mecca. This migration, known as the Hijra, marks the beginning of the Islamic calendar. Upon arrival in Medina, Muhammad established a pact known as the Constitution of Medina, which formed a multi-religious community and outlined the rights and responsibilities of Muslims, Jews, and other tribes living in the city. He became both a spiritual and political leader, mediating disputes and ensuring peace among the various factions. After the Hijra, the Quraysh continued to pursue hostilities against the Muslims. The first major battle between the Muslims and Quraysh was the Battle of Badr in 624 CE. Despite being vastly outnumbered, the Muslims achieved a stunning victory. This event boosted the morale of the early Muslim community and marked a turning point in their struggle for survival. In 625 CE, the Quraysh sought revenge in the Battle of Uhud, where the Muslims suffered a defeat due to strategic errors. However, despite this setback, Islam continued to grow. In 627 CE, the Meccans, along with several allied tribes, attempted a final siege on Medina in the Battle of the Trench. The Muslims dug a trench around the city, which helped prevent the Meccan forces from breaching their defenses. This battle ended in a stalemate but further weakened the Quraysh's position. In 628 CE, Muhammad set out with his followers to perform the Hajj pilgrimage to Mecca. However, the Quraysh barred their entry. After negotiations, the Treaty of Hudaybiyah was signed, allowing Muslims to perform the pilgrimage the following year. Although it seemed like a compromise, this treaty ultimately allowed the Muslims to grow stronger as they enjoyed a period of peace with the Quraysh. In 630 CE, after the Quraysh violated the terms of the Hudaybiyah Treaty, Muhammad led a large force of 10,000 Muslims to conquer Mecca. The conquest was remarkably peaceful. Muhammad entered Mecca without bloodshed and forgave many of his former enemies, including those who had persecuted him. He purified the Kaaba of idols, dedicating it to the worship of Allah alone. In 632 CE, Muhammad performed his farewell pilgrimage, Hajj, and delivered his famous farewell sermon at the Mount of Arafat. In his sermon, he emphasized the importance of equality, justice, and the sanctity of life, urging his followers to uphold the rights of all people. He reiterated that there was no superiority of one race over another and that all Muslims were brothers and sisters in faith. After all this, he died in the 8th of June 632 CE. at the age of 62 in Medina, state of Medina. And we would like to thanked Muhammad for his contribution, struggle and sacrifice.